Right. Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, I have, before beginning our session, I have a practical uh, question to ask you. And this is a problem I face quite often when I share with my friends. I share some of these sessions, some of these ideas with my friends. They say, yeah, we live in a VUCA world today. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Everything is changing so fast. In the past, if you learned a certain skill or you learned a certain trade, you could maybe pull all your life on the back of that skill or that trade. But in today's world, with the introduction of AI, things have become so difficult. You learn a skill today, you might get redundant even tomorrow. Yeah, in these trying times, is it too much to expect someone to spend some time for spirituality?
Yeah, well said, Jay Kishan, that we are in times of uncertainty and change. Everything is constantly updating and changing. Chat GPT comes in, and the shares of Google drop by $100 billion. So in a couple of days. So these are very uncertain times, as you rightly said. However, there is one more connotation, and that being that as the uncertainty of the outer world is increasing, the entropy of the outer world is increasing, so is the entropy of the inner world. So there's definitely a lot of uncertainty around us, but a greater amount of uncertainty comes from the world inside us. And you can say that, yes, I need to be in sync with the latest technology, latest political trends, latest business trends, market trends, etc. So I need to be in sync with all these trends, right? But what if I'm in sync with all the trends of the business world, of the technological world, of the political world, and the world in general, but I'm not in sync with myself, right? Then ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water which gets inside them, right? So if we are in sync, SYNC, sync with the world around, but if we are not in sync with the world within, then the waters of uncertainty outside will enter within, and that is sufficient to make our ship SINK sink, right? So therefore, it's essential that we, for us to stay afloat amidst these testing turbulent times, we need to have our boat in order, which means we need to take a stock of our inner world as much or even more than we are taking stock of the outer world in terms of the markets, in terms of business, in terms of political developments, trends of technology, etc. So both are actually essential. And like this question also brings us to the situation which was happening on the battlefield. Bhul gaye kya? We were at the battlefield.
Oh, yes.
At the battlefield of life. So what happens there exactly? So we were at the juncture where the conch shells have been blown. उसके बाद क्या हुआ? आपने ही बोला था कि suspense, there's a suspense, element of suspense. What is going to happen next? Yes, that is going to be rolled out by Vyasadeva, by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra in these verses that we are going to discuss. And to some extent, the answer to your question also draws from this section of the Gita, from the verse 20 to 26, where Arjuna asks Krishna, Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Ratham Sthapaya Me Achyuta. So after the conch shells have been blown, Krishna asks of Krishna, his charioteer, his friend, that can you please take my chariot in between the two armies? I simply want to make a survey of who all are the various generals, military generals, warriors in this battle of arms. So I want to strategically study the formation of army. So Krishna can, as a part of our strategy, let's first of all take the chariot in between the two armies. So he was very much studying the uncertainty and changes of the outer world, right? He was studying the technology which Dronacharya and all the Kauravas are going to use, the military formation which would be used by the Kauravas. So he's definitely studying all of that as a military general. But then something suddenly happens. And what's that? As he is looking at all of these flanks of army on the battlefield, he looks and finds out that on the battlefield, he is seeing his relatives and friends. Bhishma Drona Pramukata Sarvesham Cha Mahikshitam Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan Samavetan Kuruniti. Partha says that, Arjuna says that on this battlefield, I am seeing my grandfathers. I am seeing my grandfather like Bhishma and Somadatta. I am seeing my elders like Bhurishrava. I am seeing my teachers like Dronacharya and Kripacharya. I am seeing maternal uncles like Shalya and Shakuni. I am seeing brothers like Duryodhan and all the Kauravas, and I am seeing sons like Lakshmana, basically the son of Duryodhana. He is also like a son to Arjuna, and then he's seeing contemporaries like Ashwathama, friends like Bhagadatta, etc. And he's seeing that he is going to lock in for a battle of bloodshed with people who are his, some of them being his closest relatives and friends. So this is something which puts Arjuna into a complete puzzle, and he's completely in disbelief that, am I with these arms going to raise weapons and kill all of them? I probably was not prepared for this. I probably had not internally readied myself for this sight. So externally, Arjuna was in a lot of confidence and clarity. I have to go and fight out on the battlefield. But internally, he was quite unsure. He had not been in sync with his external decision to fight and his internal emotions. Was he internally also, emotionally also ready to raise weapons against his grandfather Bhishma, his teacher like Drona and Kripacharya, his friends like Bhagadatta, etc.? Probably not. And therefore, by the example of Arjuna, we see that we may be ready with the technological prowess, the market trends, the business trends, and everything in the outer world. But if we are not ready with the inner world, if we are not in sync with the inner world, then somewhere we may lose it. Tells to that Krishna, I don't see any reason to fight here. I can't stand here in front of my friends and relatives in a fighting spirit, and seeing all of them in front of me, I am losing my enthusiasm to fight. Tan samikshya sa kaunteya sarvan bandhun avasthitan kripaya paraya vishto visidantam idam abravit. Arjuna became so puzzled that he became overwhelmed with compassion and started shedding tears. So we definitely should become specialists with the work that we do, but not at the cost of remaining strangers with ourselves. So yes, we become specialists with the world around, but also specialists with the world within. And that's which is something which is especially needed in today's world, because a lot of certainty is there outside, uncertainty is there outside. But more than that, a lot of uncertainty comes from within. And if you have not made yourself come in sync with that inner world, then suddenly you will find yourself behave in patterns, behave in ways which are very surprising, which are embarrassing, and uh, which may make you dysfunctional. You may have all the knowledge, all skills, all the talent, but if you are a stranger with your inner self, then at the critical juncture you may become dysfunctional. So that's where I guess we need to emphasize on the importance of introspection. While we are making all our relevant studies and updates about the outer world, let's also spend some time with the inner world through introspection, meditation, journal writing, etc. All of us listen to podcasts, this being one of the podcasts, right? So the Joe Rogan podcast, the On Purpose podcast of Jay Shetty, Ranveer Alabadia's podcast. So there are a lot of podcasts that we tune into, but we should also tune into one more podcast, and which is the podcast with yourself. So we need to spend time in seclusion with ourselves, and that's called Swa Adhyaya. So we need to spend time in seclusion, reading ourselves through the mirror of the scriptures, introspecting on our inner climate with the help of the scriptures, and that can really go a long way in making us more predictable, making our responses more predictable. What do you think?
Having the podcast with yourself. Oh, this was new. Wow. Being in sync with your own self, for you not to sink the uncertainty of the outside world. Prabhu, you mentioned that when you're not in sync with your inner self, you start there is a tendency to start behaving dysfunctional. So this takes me back to my mother. She narrated a story of her grandmother. तो गर्मी का मौसम था, सब शहर के बच्चे सब गए थे गांव, एंड वहां मेरी मॉम की ग्रैंडमदर, शी वाज आम की गुठली चूसते वक्त, शी आस्क्ड वेरी इनोसेंटली, कि मैंने सुना है आजकल ये कुछ डिप्रेशन वगैरह कुछ है क्या, मतलब ऐसा कुछ सुना है, वो लोग पागल जैसे रोते हैं, कैंसर जैसा है क्या कुछ, समथिंग लाइक कैंसर वेयर द पर्सन डाइज, व्हाट इज दिस डिप्रेशन अबाउट? सो and in today's world, this is something that is so common. You find almost every second person suffering with some kind of mental disorder. The other day we were laughing on this story and how innocent that my mom's grandmother was. She didn't know what the term mental disorder was. And at times when today's generation suffers through mental disorders, they question themselves, is there something wrong with me? And how does someone even land in such a position, Prabhu, where they find themselves delusional or in a state of mental disorder?
Yes. Well, thank you, Jai Kishan, for bringing about a very pertinent question about mental disorders bringing about dysfunctionality. Someone is very equipped, very talented, very as a genius, but then just because their mind doesn't cooperate with them, they become dysfunctional, they become erratics. Like I have seen batchmates from IIT becoming dysfunctional. They have got the best of the brains, but they are not able to handle their brains, right? And then end up in being dysfunctional and depressed. And we see in Arjuna's case too. So the story so far, Arjuna kept his Gandiva down, his bow down, saying that I cannot face this. This was not what I signed up for. I thought I had signed up for this, but no, I'm not ready for this. So that was Arjuna's situation, and he told Krishna that Sidanti mama gatrani, that my limbs are trembling, my hairs are standing on end, my mouth is drying up, my all of these symptoms are coming, and he's saying my mind is reeling, my skin is burning. At symptoms of depression or anxiety disorders, you will find some of these symptoms out there. So even someone of the caliber of Arjuna was put up in a situation where he felt depressed, where he felt dysfunctional. So first of all, to someone who thinks that there's something wrong with me if I am depressed, I would first of all tell them, request them to debunk this conception in their head. Because we need to separate me and my mind. Just because I am going through a depressed state doesn't mean something is wrong with me. We are pure eternal souls, which can never be polluted. But just like the sun can be covered by the cloud, so the pure eternal soul can be covered by the cloud of a conditioned mind, right? And that's what any mental disorder or a depression or a negativity syndrome is about. When the light of our existence is covered by the cloud of some sort of a mental disturbance. So first of all, we need to, rather than identifying with the mind, identify the mind. Look at our thoughts as a detached observer. Okay, I'm good for nothing. I can't do anything. Everyone betrays. No one is good. So we believe them as gospel absolute statements, but we need to make a distance with ourselves, with those thoughts, and see, my mind is thinking that I'm good for nothing, which may not be the case. My mind is giving this suggestion, auto suggestion to me that this is the end of the world. This is the end of the road. This is a dead end. No one is helpful. So these are suggestions coming in from the mind. These are not your own real thoughts. This is an imposition which has come in from the mind. So we need to first of all separate the mind from the soul. Otherwise, we shall start punishing the victim and empowering the criminal. Someone who says, okay, I think मैं ही बेकार हूँ, मैं depression में हूँ, मैं ही बेकार हूँ, I am good for nothing. So when a person goes to such a state of mind, basically they are empowering their mind and punishing themselves. Whereas they need to discipline the mind and empower themselves, right? So that's where we need to differentiate. Otherwise, depression can be a self-imprisonment. The mind is the jailer and we become the prisoner. If we keep on empowering those negative thoughts, then those negative thoughts, they restrict us and constrain us within the prison, and we lose our freedom, we lose our functionality. So that's the first thing to understand about this phenomena of mental disorders or depression. And what basically depression or mental disorders are all about. They are basically exaggerated response of the mind for any problem or reversal. So each one of us goes through situations of reversals, turbulence in life, difficulties, challenges. सबके जीवन में आते हैं. No one is exempted. Now, some of us, we tend to get overwhelmed or sometimes blow it out of proportions. So each one of us goes through some sort of a difficulty or challenge in life. But when we give control to the mind, when we give the remote control of our life to the mind, then the mind starts exaggerating the situation. If one person has betrayed us or done wrong to us, we start equating it to the whole world. नहीं सारी दुनिया ही ऐसी. So you see, we magnify. That's the nature of the mind. It magnifies small problems and makes them big. Right? So therefore, that's the state of mental disorder, where the mind is like a screen which gives us where we need to project what is happening in the outer world. But sometimes when the mind starts acting like a television, where it starts on its own broadcasting its own visualizations of maybe a negative visualization of ourselves, which may not be the case. You may have done a lot in the past, you may have accomplished a lot in the past, but the mind may go into that spell where it keeps on demeaning your own past achievements or criticizing others. So therefore we need to separate the mind and our true self. That's the first step in dealing with any sort of mental disorder, and this will really empower us and not allow us to be a prisoner of the mind.
Hmm.
And with respect to, now you may question about Arjun, कि Arjun को भी depression आ गया, was something, what happened wrong in his life. If we have to put in the factors which may cause any sort of mental disorder or dysfunctionality, let me draw it for you. Let me draw a whiteboard. Okay, so if let's look at the factors which can cause at any point of time some sort of a mental disorder. Psychological constitution, then philosophical orientation, and third is external situation. So mental health is dependent on these three factors. Psychological constitution. So all of us, we have a certain personality type. Certain personality types may be more susceptible to become negative, or maybe some past influences, maybe some childhood influences, etc. So we all have a psychological makeup or a psychological constitution, and some may be more susceptible to negativity, some may be less. And and the second thing is philosophical orientation. So philosophical orientation is about what kind of a philosophy do we practice in life. So philosophical orientation, someone may have a materialistic conception of life, an atheistic conception of life. And this is a short recipe for landing oneself into some sort of a mental disorder or anxiety or a frustration in life. Why? Because a person who has a materialistic conception of life, he or she will naturally have very high expectations to be fulfilled. And that too based on a self-centered perspective, that I am the center of the world and everything around should serve me. But this conception doesn't realize that actually, if everyone thinks like this, then no one is going to help me. No one is going to serve me, loves themselves. Right? So therefore, a materialistic perspective of life, materialistic philosophical orientation of life is all the more responsible for pushing oneself in this kind of a situation, irrespective of one's psychological orientation, psychological constitution. Even one may be very strong mentally, but agar philosophical orientation ठीक नहीं है, materialistic philosophy है, atheistic philosophy है, then one becomes very much prone to such disorders. Example, actually it is researched, it is well researched. If you look at there was an American family survey conducted in 2022, and as per this survey, people who have a leaning towards leftist atheistic philosophies, have leftist and atheistic mindsets, they are having 20% more chances of succumbing to negativity and depression. 20% more chances. So those who are traditional people, conservative people, they have like 30% chances, and these people have 10 to 15% chances. So they are 20% more susceptible to any sort of a disorder. So therefore, your philosophical orientation also matters in how you will respond to any negativity. And the third thing is external situation. So external situation kaisa hai ki abhi Arjuna, in the life of Arjuna, there was a very severe, difficult situation which had come in. So it took him such a difficult situation, it took him such a challenging situation to snap. For some of us, it may be, some small thing happens and we blow up, right? तो जैसे रबर बैंड है, रबर बैंड को थोड़ा खींचोगे वो टूट जाएगा, right? But if you have a steel wire, you need to pull more and more and more, but at some point of time, maybe it will also snap. So therefore, we should not be like a rubber band. We should be like a steel wire, जिसको वापस weld भी कर सकते हैं. So these three things are important to consider when we look at any mental disorder, that all of these three are responsible. And just like उसको हम compare भी कर सकते हैं, जैसे just to make it more, your physical or genetic constitution, lifestyle orientation, and I will say external infection. Okay, so this is very much parallel to physical health. If you just study physical health, so someone has a like genetically they are more susceptible to infections, that they may be prone to get sick quicker, right? Someone may be having a very strong genetic constitution, strong physical health, right? But if their lifestyle is wrong, lifestyle is compared to philosophical orientation. So if their lifestyle is wrong, then even though they have a strong genetic constitution, but if they are into drinking and smoking and other bad habits, then what happens is they become susceptible to falling sick. And the third thing is external infection. So अगर बाहर से strong infection भी है, पर lifestyle orientation सही है और genetic constitution सही है, then you won't fall sick. So similarly, even if you have a difficult reversal external situation, but if you have a good psychological constitution which can be changed and enhanced, and you have a good philosophical orientation, a philosophical orientation based on the spiritual understanding of life, that we are not the body, we are spirit souls, then you can remain strong and steady despite difficult external challenges and reversals. So this is a long and short of my thoughts on this. Any follow-up questions, Jai Kishan?
So here you clearly mentioned psychological constitution, philosophical orientation, and external situation, and it's very clear. To Arjun ke saath, to it was the external situation that played a part. That the external situation was so overwhelming for him that he fell into the spell of indecision. And normally, even we see in our lives, it's generally easy to choose between good and bad, right and wrong. But to choose between bad and bad and right, which is more correct, that is a difficult choice to make. And how do we steer clear through this indecision, Prabhu? That when we have choices to make between right and right, how do we make better decisions?
Well, very, very thought-provoking question. How do we deal with situations where we have to choose between a right and another right, one wrong or another wrong? Because एक तरफ कुआं है दूसरी तरफ खाई, something like that. So what do I choose? And doomed if I do, doomed if I don't. So some situation like that is very difficult to uh, navigate. And actually, I would call it as the most toughest terrain or toughest place to be in. The toughest place to be in is not Siachen Glacier. The toughest place to be in is not the Atlantic Ocean with its waves. The toughest terrain is not a marsh. The toughest terrain is to be in between two minds. You say, no, I'm in between two minds. I'm in indecision whether to make this choice or that. So in such a situation, you have a call of duty in one ear, speaking, and in another ear, the call of desire or emotion. तो एक तरफ से आपका ड्यूटी आपको कुछ करने के लिए प्रेरित कर रहा है, एंड दूसरी तरफ से आपका जो इमोशंस है और आपका डिजायर्स है वो आपको कुछ और बता रहे हैं, और ये दोनों का ऑल्टरकेशन चलता रहता है. मीन्स दिस loudly says that no, you must follow your duty, you must follow your head, and this part says no, you must follow your emotions, you must follow your heart. And then we feel pulled between these two and completely confused and in complete indecision. And that's what happens to Arjuna, as we discussed. And Arjuna tries his best to pull himself out of this indecision. He applies the best of discrimination and logic of what is it that I should do. So it is not that he whimsically puts his bow down. No, Arjuna doesn't fall into such a category of indecision where he's whimsically putting his bow down. He has thought about it. Maybe previously he had not introspected. Maybe previously he had not essayed his inner world. But now he has properly introspected, and then he's telling Krishna why he thinks he should not fight. So he puts all of his reasons together, and if you try to categorize those reasons, they fall into dharma, artha, kam, and moksha, and very systematically. So let me again get the whiteboard in. Right? Does it help, Jayakishan?
Oh, definitely, Prabhu. Yes.
Okay. So let me see if I can. Maybe it's let okay. First is you take it as dharma. So Arjuna says it will be that if I kill my relatives, I'll incur sin. So that's the first argument that he gives. That then Krishna says, well, wait a minute. They are not ordinary relatives. They are aggressors. They are atatayis. And the Manusmriti tells that an aggressor can be counteracted by killing them. So who is an aggressor? Aggressor is someone who tries to murder you, tries to usurp your land or your wife, or who sets your house on fire. So there are these 6 kind of aggressors who have done any sort of aggression on you in terms of trying to take away your life, trying to burn your home, trying to take away your property or wife. So such a person doesn't fall under the category of being excused. So tooth for tooth, nail for nail. So they have to be dealt with with violence and aggression because they are aggressors. So Arjuna says that no. So they may be ignorant, they may be attacking us, but we are not ignorant. They may be aggressors because they are ignorant, but I don't want to. Then, if I also do the same thing, then what is the difference between me and them? So Arjuna says, first of all, it will be sinful to kill relatives, even if they are aggressors. So this is the first thing he says. And secondly, he says, they are ignorant, we are not. So you see, this is a very sound logic. So as per Dharma Shastras, he is concluding this. Then comes Artha. So what do you mean by Artha? Traditionally, Artha Shastra as a book was written by Jackishan. Can you or anyone of our audience guess?
Audience, please help me. Please help me in this. Prabhu has caught me on the right foot. Please help me. Arthashastra was written by whom?
One of the most.
Chanakya Pandit.
Yes. So Chanakya is the one who wrote the Kautilya's Arthashastra. So basically, Arthashastra is about how to run a kingdom, how to maintain law and order in this society. So basically, regarding this, Arjuna says that when because of this war, if there is widespread killing, then what will happen? Widespread killing will lead to death of wise elders, which will lead to death of wise elders will lead to loss of family traditions, which will lead to irreligion in society, which will lead to adultery of women, which will lead to irreligious population, which will lead to, so you know the logic of Arjuna, which will finally lead to disruption in law and order. Yeah, can you now appreciate the logic of Arjuna? That okay, this battle will cause widespread killing, and if some of the people who will be killed in this battle, they will be the wise elders, Bhishma, Drona, Yudhishthir. All of them are wise elders, and by their direction, we know by our direction of our elders, parents, teachers, what is right and what is wrong, what is pious, what is impious, what is religious, what is irreligious, what is moral, what is immoral. It's by their direction, by their wisdom, that we can distinguish and discriminate. So if our elders will be killed, then it will lead to loss of family parampara or tradition. This knowledge which is being passed by our elders, तो elders ही नहीं रहेंगे, तो हमें वो wisdom कैसे मिलेगा? और wisdom नहीं मिलेगा, it will lead to irreligion in society, because then people will behave whimsically for their own selfish interest, because elders, they look at the greater good of the society because they have seen the world. We look at our own small self and how we can so therefore that will lead to irreligion in society, which will ultimately lead to adultery of women, and women are given the utmost pedestal in the Vedic society, where they do the most important task of raising the next generation. In the Vedic society, that's considered to be a very high service, and therefore if there's adultery in the woman, then irreligious population will come up, which will ultimately lead to disruption of law and order in the society. And then what we are seeing today in terms of shootouts, shoot, mass shootings, killings in schools in the West, or abhi, in India also these days some things like this crimes are happening, right? So we heard of the Shraddha Walkar murder and many such other murders which are taking place. So that kind of a law and order situation will arise in the society. So this is the second logic which Arjuna is giving, the artha from the standpoint of Artha Shastra. Then kama. Kama means desire. Ki chalo, from the perspective of if I want to be happy, if I even want to look at it from a selfish perspective, then Arjuna says that what happiness can we derive from a kingdom born from the blood of our own relatives? We will have to live our entire life in guilt. Yudhishthir Maharaj will sit on a throne, but he will always be in guilt, thinking that I have received this throne with the stains of blood of my own relatives and elders. So cannot enjoy a kingdom obtained at cost of loving friends and elders. So for whom will we keep this kingdom? Because जिनके लिए वो kingdom लेना था वो ही शायद मर जाएंगे. So this is the third thing. And then moksha. The fourth consideration is moksha, that what happens to us after death. So we saw from the dharmic perspective that it will be sinful to kill relatives, even if they are aggressors. They may be ignorant, but we are not. We should act as per dharma. Second is artha, that how it will lead to law and order situation in society. Third is kama, that we won't be able to enjoy a kingdom based on the blood stains of our relatives and friends. And the moksha, what will happen to us after death, what will happen to our forefathers, because in the Vedic tradition there is the system of offering oblations. Others. So as per the Vedic tradition, all of us have certain debts. Devarshi Bhutat Nrinam Pitrinam, that we have debts towards the devatas who supply us the rains, the grains, and everything. The devatas are supplying us through different agencies like the Vayu Dev, Varun Dev, Indra Dev, etc. So we are indebted to the devatas, we are indebted to our forefathers, because we have gotten this body from our parents. Our parents have gotten their body from their parents. So in this family lineage, we have gotten this body, and we owe a debt to our forefathers, right? Everything that we can do in this world today, everything that we can enjoy in this world today is because we have got a body. And our forefathers are responsible for us to have this body today. So there is a certain debt which we owe to them. And therefore, in the Vedic tradition, a person is supposed to offer Pindadan to one's ancestors, offer Vishnu Prasad to one's ancestors, so that they attain mukti, they attain moksha. So Arjuna says that if this system or tradition of Pindadan is lost, then our forefathers will fall into hell rather than getting liberated. And similarly, we also, after leaving this body, we won't be liberated. So you see, he uses all the different yardsticks of decision making, all the different parameters he weighs in dharma, he weighs in artha, he weighs in kama and moksha. These are called the four purusharthas. Purushartha mean that which is basically the purpose to attain in your life. So someone may have dharma as his core principle or purpose in life. Someone may have artha, or artha means power and prosperity. So someone may have the purpose of power and prosperity. Someone may have the purpose of kama or enjoyment. or someone may have a purpose of moksha or liberation. So Arjuna is saying that whether I consider any of these purposes, I don't see any cause for fighting, because it's not going to help any of these causes. So why should I be motivated to fight? Because these are the four motivating factors which motivate anyone to do anything. So if none of these purposes or motivating factors are, it's the point of this battle. So that's where Arjuna rests his case, but he realizes I'm still confused. So and he turns to Krishna, that Krishna, I don't know what to do. I am confused. So as you said, we also may deliberate and come up with a lot of thoughts on why I should do something, why I should not do something. But at the end, if we find ourselves in indecision and confusion, we need to turn to someone else who is spiritually more evolved and who is a very benevolent friend. So therefore, Arjuna turned to Krishna, and he expressed himself, his own vulnerabilities, his entire heart to Krishna. This is the situation I am in. This is my reasoning, but I am not coming to any conclusion. So when, as you asked, what should we do when I have to choose between two rights, and even after deliberating on it, I am not able to come to a conclusion, then better let us approach someone who is spiritually more refined, evolved, and in whose heart our interests are very important, who is a very benevolent friend. So that's what Arjuna did, and by his action, he's also inspiring us to do.
So certainly Arjun's decision was not a whimsical one. As you clearly described, he used the best of yardsticks to make his decision, and in spite of that, he was left in that plane of indecision, and the call of duty and call of desire that always keeps troubling us. Prabhu, you mentioned an interesting fact here, the position of women in the traditional family, where they were given the highest duty to raise the family or raise the future generations. But if you look at this in today's context, then there is a narrative where which seems to the normal audience that the traditional family system was always tipped against women. Yeah, they were simply homemakers, and now that the grip of family is loosening, women are free to choose what they want to do, their source of livelihood. If they want to work, they don't want to work, they have complete freedom, and this seems to be a little progressive and not like the regressive ages of the past. What is your take on this?
Yeah, putting me on the spot. It's a very sensitive question. I need to really pray hard. So now, as you only rightly mentioned, it is a narrative. It's a narrative. It's a particular point of view. It's a particular perspective that the traditional family system, family institutions were tipped against women. So, which is not a gospel truth. Maybe in some period of time, with the degradation in the society, the family institution in some places, in some period of time, may have degenerated to a situation where they are, exploitative, or are not having equal rights for women. But that cannot be a generalized statement. And as far as you're saying that women were simply homemakers, so you are really maybe undermining the importance of being a homemaker. So yes, we don't undermine if a woman expresses her desire to work and contribute to the society through her skills in terms of as an engineer, as a doctor, as whatever. But that should not be at the cost of undermining being a homemaker, because because somewhere we have a inherent feeling that running a home or importance of home is not that great. So we have undermined the importance of home, and therefore we are undermining the importance of homemaking, and that's a critical problem which is currently facing the society, that we have big homes, we have big houses, I would say, but not those warm homes. Like पहले एक झोपड़ी में भी एक परिवार सुख से एक साथ रहता था. अभी बड़े बड़े बंगले हो गए हैं, but you don't find the warmth, you find cold wars going on, right? So because we have undermined the importance of home, we are also undermining the importance of homemaking. So first of all, let us set that narrative right, that making home is a very, very crucial, important, one of the most essential functions of the society. Because the society is made up of homes. If the homes are not happy, the society is not going to be happy. If the homes are disturbed, the society is going to be disturbed. And if the society is disturbed, the nation is going to be disturbed, right? So there's going to be unrest. So this mindset comes from of overvaluing things and undervaluing people. So we love things and tend to use people, and therefore for us home have any weightage. So, and that's why if you look at the measures of productivity, we measure the nation's progress by GDP, gross domestic product, right? And in the calculation of gross domestic product, none of the metrics, none of the parameters includes the contribution of a mother. So what she contributes is nowhere in your metrics, and then you will say, okay, homemaking is useless, because you don't account for it. The people who contribute to this economic growth, how do they come? Do they land from the space, through a space shuttle? No, they are brought into this world by mothers, and it is a mother's love which nurtures people to grow into functional individuals who can contribute something constructive to society, right? So the entire effort of a mother is not accounted for, and then you say that homemaking is inferior. If a woman is a homemaker, probably she didn't have a job to do, and that's why she has settled for it, something inferior. But let all of us not undermine this very crucial function of the society. You may work as a working professional, definitely, but not with the understanding of doing it because homemaking is inferior. The social narrative may be like that, but as we discussed last time, we need to blow our conch shell louder. We need to impregnate in the minds of the society that this is the most crucial function, which is very much essential. And that's why you see all of these social evils in the form of drug addictions and shootings, is because somewhere the individuals are having a corrupted consciousness, because they haven't been brought up in the best possible fashion. A woman has the prerogative to bring new life to the world, which no one else has. So women actually bring new life into this world, which brings liveliness to the world, right? Otherwise we will just be dead and gone as a species. So it is very easy to raise projects, but it is very difficult to raise people. And woman has been granted this boon by Mother Nature of the right kind of emotions, the right kind of caring nature to bring about new life into this world and raise that new life. And even if you look at human psychology and science, a child's personality develops especially till the age of 6. Till the age of 6 or maximum up to the age of 10, the personality is very much well defined. And that is crucially hinged on how much love and care the child receives from his or her mother. even more than the father. It's more the mother whose love nurtures the child's personality. If the child is if the mother is having difficult time in terms of marriage, or difficulties in terms of relationship, or other sorts of deviations in the marriage, then essentially what happens is that the child has a ruptured psychology, disturbed psychology, and then they go through mental issues. And as per a survey, children in broken marriages are 8 times more susceptible to mental disorders than children in families where the marriages are having a good bonding. So therefore, we should not undermine the importance of family institution and that of the role which women play in that. And it's a universal phenomena. It's not just in human species. In every species you see, almost the woman, the female, the fair sex is given that prerogative to produce life and to nurture that life, right? So we cannot go against the laws of nature. And as a species, we have tried enough to go against the laws of nature, and that has backfired in the form of climate change and pollution, water pollution, air pollution, diseases, cancer, etc. It has backfired on us. But somewhere we need to wake up to the fact that we need to respect Mother Nature and the laws made by Mother Nature. And one of the laws made by Mother Nature is that women give life to society and women nurture life. And that needs to be respected, and that needs to be given its due position in the society. It cannot be undermined endlessly and considered as inferior work. If that is done, then we are not leaving a legacy behind, right? The next generation which comes won't be having those ethos which we have been raised with by our parents. So I like to compare this with an analogy of, like you spoke about family traditions. Arjuna speaks about family traditions, and if the family traditions are lost, the culture is lost, then there's adultery and women are polluted, and then the next generation. So look at it in the form of agriculture, culture and agriculture, right? So agriculture is very important because agriculture gives us food, brings life, right? So family traditions and culture can be compared to agriculture. And for good agriculture, for good family traditions, you need a good fertile soil, fertile land, right? And women represent that fertile land, which brings about new life to the world. In our tradition, Mother Earth, like Earth is called Mother. Earth is one of our 7 mothers. So Earth is one of the mothers, and so similarly, Earth is called Mother because it gives rise to life in the form of food and other things. So similarly, woman is also a mother who brings about life, right? So if the soil is polluted, then it will lead to polluted crops, which is basically the next generation which comes in will have some sort of disorders, mental disorders, emotional disorders, ethical disorders, etc. Right? And so if the topsoil is eroded and polluted, then what happens is you have the soil is not fertile enough, and then next the crops which come about, they are not nutritious enough. They are full of pesticides and insecticides and fertilizers which you have to put to bring about productivity. And then what happens is it causes cancer because all of these chemicals, they pollute the soil, and then the people who eat them, it causes carcinogenic chemicals to be generated, right? So pehle bolte the ki an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So there was a survey which was done that in the year 1950, the amount of iron and nutrients which one apple had was enough for supplying nourishment and vitamins to a human. So 1 apple a day keeps the doctor away was good for 1950. But come 1980, the number changed to 26 apples a day keeps the doctor away, because जो nutrients आपको एक एप्पल में मिलता था, अभी आपको 26 एप्पल खाना पड़ेगा, because we are just putting in chemicals and expecting chemicals to give us nourishment. Life comes from life. If you want to get nourishment, it will come from organic matter, not from chemicals. And today's as we speak today, you need 36 apples a day to keep the doctor away. So if you are wondering, okay, I am eating an apple every day, but still I am not healthy, how can you be healthy, sir? It will require 36 apples. Also have some cancerous chemicals, so it will invite more doctors. So, like, to summarize, basically, we need to restore our family traditions and cultures. We need to restore our agricultural traditional practices, which we call Rishi Krishi, which was given by the sages. And when the Rishi Krishi, when those ancient traditions are restored, then the topsoil will be preserved. Mother Earth will flourish. And when the mother flourishes, then the next generation flourishes. So when the women in the society are protected, when the women in the society are given the highest respect and stature, then the next generation which comes about is not polluted. The next generation which comes about is ethical, emotionally resilient, and spiritually advanced. So for the bright future of the society, we need to somewhere now also give emphasis on homemaking, as we give to the GDP, right? So yes, definitely Vedic tradition gives the utmost respect to women. Otherwise, why would the greatest wars, Ramayana and Mahabharata, be fought for the pride and respect of women, to women? Ramayana was fought for Mother Sita's pride, and Mahabharata for Draupadi's pride, right? So therefore, in no way Vedic tradition or ancient Indian tradition undermines the importance and role of women. Actually, their role is the highest.
Wow. Thank you for such a wonderful explanation, Prabhu. There have been beautiful comments coming our way, and I personally feel ये जो एक मानसिकता है कि घर चलाना, होम मेकिंग, ये तो ठीक है, कोई भी कर सकता है. This thought process leads to us undermining, or the society undermining, homemaking, which is such an integral part of our society, our culture, and our future. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for that wonderful explanation. And it was a controversial question, so you took it up beautifully and enlightened us very nicely on that. Really, thank you for that. There is a question. Sorry, come again, Prabhu. I didn't hear you.
Thanks so much for steering me clear of controversy.
I won't leave you, Prabhu. I have more questions to come my way. So, just kidding. Prabhu, I'm just having a look at the chat box, and I find a very peculiar question here from our dear Guru Bhakti. And she says that she asks, does the Bhagavad Gita have any special guidance to those children, since we are discussing mental health and mental health issues? Does the Bhagavad Gita has any special guidance to children who are born with mental disorders? Is that something that the Gita covers, or any food for thought that can be given in that direction?
Okay, so see, as we are recklessly exploiting Mother Nature, as we are recklessly abandoning the family traditions and the culture, we are seeing certain outcomes of our whimsical approach to exploitation of Mother Nature, exploitation of family traditions, and etc. And one of those things is that complications in delivery and the next generation, some of those still syndrome and other syndromes which we are seeing in the infant babies these days very frequently, which was not the case in the previous times. So we are seeing that there's so many the statistics show that Now, most surgeries, most of the deliveries happen through, the cesarean, which was not the case in the previous times. The mother was healthy enough to give birth in a labor room, but now they need to undergo surgery, and and certain complications are definitely coming in. So Bhagavad Gita definitely gives us the mindset of care. Krishna says, Atmapamyena sarvatra samam cha yadi pashyati, that look at the pains and pleasures of others as your own pains and pleasures. And only an empathetic person can actually make that stride towards helping others. So the first step towards helping others is feeling for their pain. That's called empathy. Most of the times we see that without any training, we have this apathy. They are suffering, chalo unko suffer karne do, hame kya lena dena hai, right? There's apathy. Higher than apathy is sympathy. Okay, they are suffering, theek hai, bad that it happened to them. So I have sympathy for them, but I don't do anything about it. But empathy is entering their shoes and feeling their pain with our heart, and then trying to do something to relieve them. So Bhagavad Gita definitely empowers us with empathy, so that we can be a instrument of service and help in others' lives. So that's one thing which definitely Gita offers us. And then Gita also offers us the right, the scientific social system of Varnashram, by which that the next generation which comes up has undergone the proper samskara. So before even a child comes into this world, you are bringing in living force. So you cannot just mechanically produce it. So therefore, Garbhadana samskara was done before a child is conceived, so that the mother and father are in the right consciousness of commitment and responsibility. They understand the responsible act that which they are engaging in, so that it's not about enjoyment, it's about commitment and responsibility. So the family setup brings about this, there are these sacred vows which are taken. So the entire institution of marriage is a sacred commitment to God, to the family, and the entire society. So when the husband and wife, they indulge in bringing about life, they are actually having the commitment that we are going to take care of this life. And then their proper samskaras are done in the proper consciousness, and that is going to attract the right kind of soul into this world and give the right kind of facility. But if our consciousness is polluted, then the life which is going to come about is also going to get polluted consciousness. So the pollution starts from our brain and enters the brain of the child, right? So therefore we need to work backwards also, so that this doesn't happen, right? So these are some things which, and of course, medically, whatever can be done should be done, and Ayurveda can definitely be employed. There are alternative medicines in Ayurveda, homeopathy, and whatever helps should be employed. But we need to work on the social systems so that this doesn't become a norm in the society. We cannot play around with nature and expect that nature will not play around with us. If we think we are so smart and so capable that we can play around with Mother Nature, then we need to be ready for the backlash, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. We can wipe our hands off our responsibility, but then that responsibility comes in another form, right? So even you may give up responsibility for the children, but then it comes under the responsibility of the government to run these orphanages. And then where does that money come from? From the taxpayers' pocket. There's more law and order problems, more crimes in unwanted population. And then the government needs to spend money on jails and police and all of those things, and the money comes from your pockets, and you have to work harder to pay more taxes, because we have created a social situation in which there are all of these vices in the society. So the boomerang comes back in some form or the other.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for that thoughtful answer. And you very beautifully described what indecision Arjun was faced with, what reasons did he give, and how we can similarly take lessons from his indecision to ward free of the confusions and indecision that we may face in our lives. The call of duty versus the call of desire, and the reasons why there is a sort of indecision, psychological constitution, philosophical orientation, and external situation. You beautifully described using the whiteboard, and again the reasons that the choice that Arjun made was not whimsical. That was the key here. He gave all the reasons from the dharma, artha, kama, and moksha fronts, and still he seemed to be indecisive. And now he's dropped his bow down, and as you said, turned towards Krishna. Again, there is a suspense here, which जो आगे कवर होगा आगे के साल जो आपके सिलसिले में. So thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for this wonderful session.
Krishnan, I found your questions are becoming tougher and tougher and more thought-provoking than ever.
Okay. It's just a product of your training, Prabhu.
Oh. Thank you. I'm also getting trained.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And so with this, we have covered the first chapter of the Gita, and we will be moving into the second chapter tomorrow. So stay tuned as we are going from one chapter to the next, and a lot of wisdom and insights are going to come out from the Bhagavad Gita for all of us. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.